What is going on, my fellow Pokemon TCG enjoyers? Ciaran here today with, honestly, probably one of the most special videos I've had the chance to record so far for my channel. For any of you who are following LAIC, I think you know I did quite well. Honestly, one of the best finishes I've had in my Pokemon career. Just like such an amazing tournament and weekend for me. I had all my friends there. I had all my friends and family back home, even friends and family who don't know how to play Pokemon, just always sending me their support. I had so many people who I've never met who just love my channel, giving me support and love, and I had so many people who just came up to me in the tournament and just told me they enjoy what I'm doing. So it was honestly like amazing. It was really tough not to finish it after getting that far, but I just had such a great time, and it was just such a great tournament for me. So just to get into what I'm going to cover today, so I'm going to go through kind of like how I ended up playing Gardevoir, how I ended up on my list, what other decks I considered. I'll go through a tournament report. So every round I've played, and any rounds that were interesting, I pulled out like a board state and I kind of made it so we can discuss that. So I think that'll be cool. And at the end, I just want to finish off with like maybe some changes I might make to the deck going forward, and discuss maybe VIP versus no VIP Guardy. So not going to waste any time, just getting right into it. So let's talk about how I ended up on Gardevoir. So I think if you know me, you know I love playing Chien-Pao. And I was definitely hyping up Chien-Pao a lot going to this tournament. I thought I was going to play it. Like, I'd only been testing Chien-Pao before the tournament. Like, I only built Chien-Pao when I got on my flight to go to Brazil, because in Toronto Regionals, like, I was going to play Chien-Pao, and I switched the last minute to Gardevoir. So, like, I didn't want to psych myself out again. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to play Chien-Pao. But then, honestly, like, when I got there, like, I played some games, and, like, I was just, like, not drawing well. And, like, but I knew that, like, that's always how the deck has been. And, like, I've always been okay with that normally. But the main thing I think that made me switch was I was testing the Gardevoir matchup against a lot of really good players, and I thought the matchup was like insanely good. Like, I thought it was still 70-30, similar to like last format, but it was actually closer to like 55-45. Like, I just didn't realize like how strong like Counter Catcher, Iono, Screamtail was, and just from talking to a lot of like top players, like it sounded like Gardevoir was gonna be a very popular deck. So one of the big reasons to play Chien-Pao is that that's like it used to be like an auto win, and like I thought it was going in, and then when it wasn't, I was a little turned off. And then also it's just like when I lose with Chien-Pao all the time, it's like it's because I just didn't get to play the game, right? Like, you don't open VIP pass going first, you don't get turn 2 backs, things like that. So it's a little bit too risky, and like to make a deep run, like you just need to draw so hot that I was like, I don't know if it's the tournament for Chien-Pao. So then, like, why was Gardevoir the deck I picked instead of Chien-Pao? So I definitely felt like Gardevoir was the safest play. I felt like it was the best deck, and I didn't think it had any like super polarizing matchups of like what I expected to be meta. And in international, like getting points or like even just getting like top 64 is like so huge, since like the points are like 2.5 times that of a regional, and the prizes are just so big. So I knew Gardevoir was like the safest deck, and besides Chien-Pao, it's probably the deck in the meta I have the most experience playing. So I definitely like that. And the other thing I really like about playing Gardevoir is like the deck has a very high skill ceiling. So it feels like a lot of games that you lose, like you lost because you could have done something different. Like, there's always something you could have done different. And the deck has like a lot of opportunity to outplay your opponent, especially now that we have Counter Catcher, like Iono, Screamtail. Like, there's just so many cool plays I made throughout the tournament, and the deck just has so many options. Like, that really appealed to me. Okay, so after I got set on Guardy, like I had to make my list. So Lucas Zing, a fellow Canadian player, he's been on my channel before, sent me his build of Guardy, and he had like no VIP pass in it. And like I wasn't opposed to playing like no VIP, and like I wasn't like, oh, I need to play VIP if I play Gardevoir. And I just trusted that he had a good list. Like, it seemed good to me. I made a couple changes to his list. So he had double Avery. Me and my friend, who also got top 8, Jeremy Gibson, were staying together, and he was like very adamant that we should be playing Lumineon. And if you've seen my Gardevoir guide video, you know I don't really like playing Lumineon. But I played Lumineon at Toronto, and I didn't play Lumineon at Toronto, and like I honestly had a lot of games where I'm like, oh, like I have Ultra Ball, but not a way to draw cards. And then we also kind of built the deck with a lot of one-of supporters like Research, Worker, Avery, Turo, Boss. So I'm like, oh, the fish actually works really well in this iteration of Gardevoir. So we put the fish in, and then we had 4 Iono originally, and then we cut 1 for a Research. That was a really great change. So one thing with Gardevoir is like, especially in mirrors, like your Curlias and like Arcana Gardevoirs get like knocked out a lot, and your draw engine starts to slowly deteriorate as you get to the late game. So having the option of Lumineon for just a draw 7 is very powerful. And it's also just good, like, if your opponent's like faltering a bit at the start and you need to draw cards, like you don't have to give them like a fresh hand of 6 with Iono. So I really like that. We played both Cresselia and Screamtail. So like I was saying before, like I thought mirrors would be very popular. Your mirror match is very bad if you don't play Cresselia and your opponent does. So I was very dead set on keeping Cresselia on the list. We did like forgo playing Jirachi. And I'll talk about Jirachi at the end more if I'd play it going forward. But I just felt like Lost Box wasn't going to be that big. I didn't think like Yoga Loop was going to be a big like attack I need to be worried about this weekend. So I just preferred the Crest. I thought having Mirror was good. And I still felt fine. Like if I faced Giratina or like a Lost on deck, I felt like I could beat it still. So that's why I played Crest. I played Zacian instead of playing Cape of Toughness. So they effectively do the same thing. They enable like a basic to take big knockouts. It's just you can get Zacian with Ultra Ball and Fog and Nest Ball. So I just thought it was easier than playing Cape. And I guess, yeah, next thing to talk about is no VIP. So I played 4 Ultra, 4 Level, 3 Fog, and a Nest. So yeah, playing no VIP, you need to up all your search cards. So without VIP Pass, like your turn 1 is kind of weaker, but your rest of your game is way stronger since you can have like more levels, more Ultras. And then I put more techs into my deck because I like didn't have to use the space for VIP. So things like Turo, like and Worker, like probably can't fit into like the normal Gardevoir build. And then you might be looking at one Nest Ball and being like, why is that in the deck? When you cut VIP Pass, you're cutting 4 cards that can get Manaphy and Greninja. So just having a Nest Ball like helps fish them out of the deck. And I honestly never had a moment in the tournament where I drew Nest Ball and I'm like, oh, I really need to be Fall Crystal. So I like that. Other than that, I played Palpad and Vacuum plus 2 stadiums. Palpad just since I'm playing like all these one-of supporters, so like for each of them shine in like specific matchups. So for example, Turtle is really good against Stall. It's like good against Mirror. Avery is really good against Mirror. It's good against Chempa. Worker is good against like Mew. It's good against Tina. It's good against if you place any RCS Judge Path deck. So just having the Palpad in combination with these one-of tech supporters and Luminion, like they like synergize so well, and I think that was like the best part about our build that I really enjoyed. Vacuum is just like, it's a path out, plus just if people play random stuff like Box of Disasters, they play like Vengeful Punch. If there's a collapse in play, you want to use your own collapse, you can Vacuum. So definitely carried its weight. I really like the Vacuum. Then 2 Counter Catcher, I think that's pretty standard in Gardevoir now. The card's just insane. It's basically just boss as an item because you're losing almost all the time with this deck. So yeah, that was my list. If you have any questions in the comments, let me know. But I really, really enjoyed this list. Like every card, besides maybe the Avery, really like carried its weight. And even then, like I just think I didn't get into that many situations where I could use Avery effectively, but it was still a good card. Okay, so moving on, I'm just going to do the tournament report now. So I played a lot of Pokemon this weekend. I've tried my best to remember what happened every round. Some rounds are a bit fuzzy, but I think overall I'll give you guys a good idea of what I played against and how my games went. So just to start off to show what I played against. So I played against Gardevoir the most. So Gardevoir was the most popular deck. I played against it 7 times. I went 6-1. So that's probably why I had a successful weekend. I felt very comfortable into the Gardevoir mirror. I felt like I played it really well. And surprisingly, I tied 0 times in 7 rounds, which is insane for Gardevoir mirror. Next up, I faced Lostina, which I think was the second most popular deck. I faced that 3 times. I played Charizard a couple times. I played the same Snorlax doll player twice. And then I played Chempa, RCS, and Miraidon once. So not a crazy amount of different decks for playing 16 rounds. Or how many did I play? I played 17 rounds. But a decent amount of different decks. So obviously, just looking at this, like I was fortunate to dodge things like the Iron Valiant deck, but like that didn't make up much of the meta. Okay, so getting into the matchups themselves. So first round, I played a player from Chile. I won a really long game 1, where I was like losing the whole time, and I had to do like Counter Catcher, Iono, and Crest to like get something stuck and just come back. And like I think game 1 was like 30-35 minutes. And then game 2, I just drew like an unplayable hand. So like I tried to like play it out because like there wasn't enough time for game 3. Just could never really get going. And then yeah, like game 3 we had like 2 minutes or something. So this was kind of like the board that I had at the end of game 1. Like he had Sableye and Cram, like a Sableye attacking. So I just like counter catchered up his Greninja. Like I owned him to like 1, took out the Sableye, and then he just like wasn't able to take a knockout on his turn. And then on my turn, I just went counter catcher, knockout Giratina after the Crest. So it was a really good comeback. A little nerve-wracking when like you Iono your opponent. Like they can win if they hit the right combination of cards, but I was able to tie that one. Round 2, I played a player from Brazil, my first Brazilian opponent. He was playing Charizard. So game 1, it was pretty much like a standard Gardevoir against Charizard. Like he took the first knockout after I Mirage Stepped going first. Then I just like did like a Shining Arcana knock on his Charizard. So I was always going like on even prizes, and he was kind of like stuck on odd prizes. So he could never really out-trade me. Game 2, he got to go first, and like he took the same route, like took a knockout. I had to respond with like the Arcana like 9 energy play, and I whiffed the reversal, so I couldn't take a knockout, and then he just like bossed my Guard EX after that. So like I was just too far behind. Couldn't win that one. I almost came back because I was able to like Iono a bunch of times, but he was just like able to draw out of it. And game 3, we just had like 5 or 6 minutes left. Really couldn't play a game. And honestly, I was losing game 3 because I actually decided to go second because I was like, oh, like I'm gonna hope he just like draws pass and I can win like a quick game with a good setup. And he just got turn 2 Charizard EX, like rare candy, and he's playing like the bib version, so he only played 1 candy. So I honestly probably would have lost if like the game went longer. So yeah, at this point, like I had 2 ties, which is like really frustrating way to start. Like that's one of the issues with playing Gardevoir. It's like you tie a lot. So I was feeling a little bit like shaky and down, but I mean, I've played so many tournaments in my life that I'm like, I've had this happen before where like I started kind of shaky and pulled it out. Like last year at LAIC, I started like 3-2-1 with Lugia, and then I honestly like went on an insane run and like made top 8. So I've done this a lot before. It's annoying to not have a 2-0 start, but like I knew I could pull it back. Just had to speed up my play a bit, just play good Pokemon. So round 3, another opponent from Brazil. Actually, this opponent like has made top cut at regionals multiple times, so a little tough of an opponent for 0-2, and like he was also like not super thrilled to be playing against me. I mean, it felt like a pretty standard mirror. Like game 1, like I was just able to take out his Curlias more effectively than he was. I kind of like benched a Manaphy, I remember, and like he couldn't really crest, so there's some turns where he wasn't taking out a Curlia, and like I was taking out his Curlias, and eventually just one of my Ionos stuck. Like once I just kept Ionoing him, and then game 2, like I got like a pretty big lead. I think I got like a 2 prize lead on him. And then he kind of just like scooped with 5 minutes left because he didn't think he could make a comeback. So I don't know, like I probably would have won, but if I was him, I would have just played it out. But I'm not going to complain about getting a win. So it felt good to get on the board there. Round 4, I faced another Charizard's deck. So this game was actually like insane. I feel like we both like were kind of like popping off. Like all 3 games, he got turn 2 Rare Candy Pidgeot, Rare Candy Charizard EX. And then the 2 games I won, game 1 and 3, I got like the reversal Guardy play with a counter catcher on his Pidgeot both times. So I remember game 3 was just like, yeah, like I was able to respond right away, take out his Pidgeot, and he just like wasn't able to boss my Gardevoir EX. And once he did that, like he was too far behind the prizes. Game 2, like he got to go first, did that play, like I just was too far behind. He got like 3 prizes, I think, before I got to take 1 because he got a boss on my Guardy or something. And then game 3, pretty similar to game 1. I just got like the Guardy 9 energy turn like when I needed it. And I also like was running low on like draw because like I prized the Curlia. Both my like Arcana got knocked out. And then he just like couldn't draw Iono because I took out his Pidgeot. So I just got to like keep a big hand and just got to like Zacian at the end, which was good. Round 5, I feel really bad, but I literally cannot remember much about what happened in this game. I don't know if it was close or not. Probably was close. It was like another mirror. Nice opponent from Chile. I remember he was a nice guy, but I can't remember much about the game, so my apologies. Round 6, I faced another Giratina. Similar to round 1, I was like behind the whole game. I had to do like counter catcher, like the Iono and like crest play. But I actually did a really cool play where like my opponent was setting up like not 100% a checkmate, but like a board where like he put like 110 on a crest. So I'll show you the board here. Like his board was kind of like this. Like I had a crest in my active instead of Gardevoir, as I'll explain what happens. Like, so he hit my crest for 110. He had like an energy on a Sableye. So like if I Moonglow versus Sableye, like he just crams my crest. If I knock out his cram, he just stabilized my crest. So I was able to Luminion for Turo and like take my crest off the board. And then I don't remember exactly what my board was, but like I know for sure like I didn't bench anything that had less than 140 HP. So he was kind of just like locked out with like 1 card in his hand, couldn't really get around. And then after I took out his cram, I just like counter catchered Giratina next turn to win. So it was a really big comeback because I was down really big in this game. There was like a turn where I could have like benched Manaphy because I didn't really respect his Greninja, and then he kind of like popped off and got it. So he had like a huge lead in this game. So I definitely dug myself into that hole through my own plays, but I was able to dig out of it, luckily. In the second game, I just remember he didn't like get going that much. So I just got to, I think I was down like 1 prize the whole time, which if you're down 1 prize with Guardy, you're just going to win. Okay, round 7, I'm playing a Snorlax stall. So this matchup felt really, really good. I mean, I have Turo in my deck. I also have Palpad. So that's like 2 times for sure I get to pick up a Pokemon. I also have like the boss his Rotom V. And then I have Collapse if he like tries, if all my energy are in play and like he tries to like get something stuck with that energy. So Game 1 and 2, actually, I just opened up Cresselia, and I literally just like immediately went for Zacian and started using Roar the Sword to get set up. So those are like my 2 attackers, and like they did the job pretty much. Eventually, like I had to start benching, or like I think he Erica's the Ralts or something, so I started like just setting up like my Gardevoirs, and then I just like filled my bench with like 5 things that could attack. And then like whenever I drew like let's say Lumineon, I would just like level ball and ultra ball for like Manaphy and Greninja. Then I would just Iono to send them to the bottom of the deck. And the only way he could shuffle my deck is if he just like played Misfortune Sisters. So I would just like literally like not play any shuffle cards once that happened. And then also a cool play I did was he in game 2 like he put a Forest Seal Stone down and didn't use it. And I had Lost Vacuum, so like I level balled for Manaphy, or I might have just had it in my hand, and I like Lost Vacuum my Manaphy and got rid of his Seal Stone. So I took out one of his Erica's targets from the game completely and Forest Stone. So that was really cool. And then like yeah, I think he tried to like get my energy like all into play and then stuck, but then I just like saved my collapse and I just like collapsed like 5 off his Zacian or something. So yeah, this was a pretty easy round, and the matchup felt like pretty good. Round 8, again, I can't really remember much. Like, I played against so many Gardevoir mirrors, they kind of like blended together. I think I actually lost game 2 in this set. I think I like scooped it on turn 2 or something. But yeah, I think I just won. So he might have not played. Oh, I think this is my opponent played. He played like Town Store and like Cape and Forest Seal. So he played a really interesting build. But I think he didn't play Cresselia. So like I think that's why I was able to win this one. I don't know if it was fairly easily or not, but I feel like he didn't play Cress. All right, then round 9. So at this point, I've just won 6 games in a row after starting 0-0-2, which always feels amazing. Always feels amazing going to round 9, like knowing you've made the second day. But I'm here to win. Like I'm not just happy that I'm making day 2. So I see him playing against Natalie. Like it's my second time playing against her at a tournament. Her and I are friends along with some of the other Australian players. So I know for sure she was playing Guardy, just like that's what their group plays. So it was honestly a really quick set. Like she just hit the nuts both games. Like she got Rare Candy, Gardevoir, EX, like Refinement, Cress on me, like or Screamtail, one or the other, like both games. And she went first the first game. I actually almost came back in the first game because like she went so aggressive with the Guardy play. Like once I was able to kind of stabilize and start picking off Curlias, I was able to keep Ionoing, but she just had enough to finish the game. And then game 2, like she got that play, and like I couldn't get a board established. So a little frustrating to like lose that one, but honestly I can't complain after where I started to going into day 2 at 6-1-2. So after that, went back to the hotel, went for dinner with the people I was staying with, Mike Nato, Jeremy Gibson. Shout out to them, great people to stay with. Tried to just go to bed at a reasonable hour. Jeremy wanted to test Gardevoir Mirror, and I was like, I'm not testing that. I want to go to bed. But yeah, so going to day 2 just like felt good. Round 10, playing against a Brazilian player, and this was actually game 2 wasn't a good game, but game 1 was a really crazy game because I had like kind of like a weak opening hand, and he like turn 2, like kind of like he went first and like kind of popped off, got like Bax, got Bibarel, like had Greninja. And he like benched Iron Hands, like put 3 energy on it. I'm like, oh no, am I gonna get turn 2 like hands? Because I think I couldn't recover. But he like was off by 1 energy, so he had to Chen Pound me. So that was lucky. But even then, like he like took like 4 prizes, like before I even got an attack off. So or until I could get to like 4. I think I Screamtailed his bib, and then like he just took out my Screamtail to go down to 1. So I had to like Iono him, counter catcher up a Bax, and then my Screamtail was in the discard, and I was trying to draw a Super Rod and I couldn't get it, so I had to like Caress like twice to knock out a Greninja, and then that put me down to like 2 prizes, and then I like just had counter catcher knock out Chien-Pao because he played all 4 Irida and 3 Super Retrieval at this point. So when I Ionoed him to 1 and I knocked out Pokestop, like he actually was drawing like to 1 out pretty much, which was good. And then game 2, like it was kind of like crazy. Like he like discarded Irida, I think, off Pokestop, and then he played Lumineon. His build was kind of interesting. He played Lumineon, like he played Drapion. He Ultra Balls for like Lumineon, and he prized 3 Irida. So like obviously like that's insanely lucky on my end and super unlucky on his end, but we take those. So started day 2 off with a win. Round 11, I played against a Brazilian player, really nice kid. But unfortunately for him, he just like drew poorly like both games. Like both games, he like turn 1 tried to get VIP pass off Celebration Mew, and he missed it both times. So from there, I was just able to like kind of like, I got Mirage Step off, like I had a stronger board, just like kind of ran him over both games. Not much to talk about. Round 12, I played on streams, so I actually recorded some VOD reviews of these, so go watch those. This set, I played like the worst set I played in my whole tournament. When I was watching him at the game, I was like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking. So like game 1, like he went first, like opened like Rod level VIP pass, and I was like, damn. But then he passed the Sableye active, so I like Luminion for research since I didn't want to give him a good hand. But like the problem with this game was like I didn't have any bench spots since he wasn't taking out knockouts, and I prized Turo and Collapse, so I could never free one up. So eventually my board was a little susceptible to Greninja, and like my board was like majorly susceptible to like my Gardevoir EX getting Star Requiem'd. So I kind of like preemptively put a bunch of energy into play when like I feel like I didn't need to. I missed like a checkmate board too, so I was like really disappointed with how I played game 1. He like Roxanne pathed me, and I just like ripped like Vacuum, Boss, Zacian off of like, I think I had like 2 Arcanas or something, but yeah, I got super lucky. Game 2, like I fell behind. He got a really aggro start. But like he benched like Giratina V and he had a V-Star in play, like when I was at like 4 prizes. So I literally just went counter catcher boss to knock them both off. And I also, again, like I drew boss off Iona. So didn't play my best this round, but was able to win. So very lucky. Round 13, my opponent flips over an Arceus, and I was really surprised to see an Arceus this deep in the tournament, but he had a pretty interesting build. He was playing Superior V-Star, and Giratina V-Star, but like when Superior came down, I had to pick it up because like I had no idea what like I was playing against. And then he like just like told me what it did because like the card was in like Portuguese or something. I'm like, all right, I just trust that what he told me is what it does. And like obviously like he was a nice guy, like it was what he said. Game 1 he went first, but he missed attachment on Arceus, so it was basically just like I went first. So I just like Mirage Stepped. He took out one of my Curlias, and I literally just like knocked out his Arceus like with my Arcana. And one key thing was I actually used Teleportation Burst on my first turn to put 10 on his Arceus, so I only needed 7 energy instead of 8, so that made a really big difference. I didn't have to use Reversal, I could save it. He put down like a Drapion V at some point and powered it up, but like I immediately just like counter catchered or bossed it, one or the other, like as soon as that was down. Then game 2, like he had another slow start, and like I basically like got to Mirage Step, and he like just had a Swove in the active and he was passing. So I didn't want to take a knockout because it's really good against Arceus to have reversals, a live card. So I literally just like set up my board. I had like 4 Curlies and a Ralts, like I rare candied one of them. I just like sat there waiting for him to take a knockout, and then once he did, it was like pretty easy. I just like went reversal on Guardy, like got Zacian ready. And just like Arceus just can't keep up with Gardevoir if Gardevoir just like sets up. And like I played like Worker back, Collapsed, and Artisan, so I just had like so many outs for like his paths. And like once Gardevoir set up with like the Curlias, like you can't really judge path him effectively. So yeah, this matchup luckily went pretty well. All right, round 14, I faced against Snorlax again, and like I was sitting next to this player like all day 2. Like he was literally always the table next to me, and I was just like hoping to get paired against him because like the matchup felt so good for me. So game 1 was like pretty much just a repeat of what happened on the first day. Like I actually started Zacian this time, which is like my absolute best starter. So yeah, I was able to just like get 3 energy onto it right away by using its ability, and eventually I waited till I had 5, so like he couldn't even put Big Charm. I just kind of like started running through his board. Eventually he benched like Mimikyu to like force me to like play other stuff. So I just like evolved a couple Gardevoirs. And what I did was I actually put Scream Tail down and I put 80 damage on it, and I just started sniping Snorlaxes on the bench because Snorlax still only plays like 2 Switch Cart and like Penny. So I was just like, all right, like I don't want you to just easily be able to put Snorlax in the active. So I just picked off all the Snorlaxes. He just had a Mimikyu stuck. So like now, like he couldn't like Penny, like Rotom and Mimikyu. So he'd always have a target in play for me to boss if he eventually like Snorlax. So I kind of like ran him over that game. And game 2, I started Luminion and like literally like not even a roll or anything. My hand was really bad. So eventually like I drew out of it, like got my board set up. I like Turo'd my Luminion and I Ultra Balled and Super Audited it. But the problem was he like A-read or something like the previous turn. Like for whatever reason, like, I couldn't fill my bench, and I prized my Greninja. So I was just like, okay, like as long as I don't take Greninja off my prize, like it's like so good. And he played Erica's literally like a few turns ago, and he Sydney'd, so he knew I didn't have a basic in my hand. Then of course I took Greninja off my prize. And then he played his second Erica's, which I felt was definitely like not needed on his part, especially since he knew I had Iono in my hand. I probably would have Iono'd if I drew something, but like he just got the Greninja. So I don't know if he had a tell or something. So he was able to like pick that off, and then he Misfortune Sistered my Palpad. So my only like way to retreat was like boss his Rotom. So I did that. I collapsed my Greninja. I Super Audited it. But just eventually, like, he was just able to get like Lumineon like in my hand again. I had no way to like get it out. So yeah, eventually he just like got me stuck and I couldn't win. So it was frustrating to tie that round just because like the matchup did feel good, but like so many things had to go wrong for me to lose. So going to round 15, I was at 33 match points, and just talking to my friends, like I knew that 2 or 3 34s would bubble in, and my resistance was pretty good, but I didn't want to tie my last round. I knew I'd rather just, like not leave it up to fate. I'd rather just control my own destiny. So played him against my first American player here. He was playing Gardevoir as well. He asked me if we wanted a gentleman's, but because he had 32 match points, but I just told him like, hey, I'm at 33, so a tie is not the worst for me. So in game 1, I went up 2 prizes, and he just scooped immediately. So really smart on his part, because it was going to be really hard for him to make a comeback. And like he knew that like he needed to win game 2 and 3. So yeah, scooped it up. And then game 2 just like couldn't get going. He whiffed VIP pass off Mew, but I found out after he only played 3 in his deck, so I guess like kind of punished for only playing 3, but still kind of unlucky. So yeah, he just couldn't get going, and then I just kind of like overran his board. I just kept Cresseling, taking out his like Kirlias, Screamtailing. So yeah, after this, it felt amazing to go from 0-0-2 to like 11-1-3. I barely tied any rounds with Gardevoir after my start, so that felt really good. And then just all my friends were kind of like on the rope, like watching, so coming up and like just getting congratulated, like giving them all high fives after was great. And then my friend Jeremy, who I was staying with, he tied his round against that Snorlax player, so him and I were like sweating it out, seeing if he'd make it. And luckily he did make it with me, but he was paired against me in top 8, so it was kind of crazy that we stayed together. We're basically playing the same list. The only difference was he played 1 memory skip Ralts instead of all teleportation burst, and like we were playing. So we were both really happy, but once we sat down, like it was serious. Like there's money on the line, there's glory on the line. Like it's hard to make top cut of international, so we both really wanted to win. So it was a really great set. Like honestly, one of the most like memorable sets I've ever played. And, like I really wish it was like recorded, but I'll do my best to kind of explain what happened. So game 1, I had a really bad opening hand, and I went second. But he like Iono'd me, and I'm like, oh sweet, like all I need to do is draw Level Ball for like, or just draw Mirage Step Kirlia, or Ultra Ball, or a Supporter, and I just like whiffed all of them. So yeah, I kind of just got like ran over game 1. Game 2, it was like one of the weirdest games I've ever played. So like, I went first, obviously. Then turn 2, like I whiffed Mirage Step again. So like my board was just like Refinement Kirlia active, Refinement Kirlia bench, like another Ralts. And his turn 2, he just went Rare Candy Guardy, knockout like my Kirlia, like because he didn't really have a great start either, but he could go aggressive. So on my turn, I like counter catchered his Kirlia and like knocked it out with like my Gardevoir, because I had Gardevoir EX, or I might have used Screamtail. I can't remember. Either way, I knocked out a Kirlia, so he had no draw, and then like he like slapped my like Gardevoir EX with his Gardevoir EX, and then I just like retreated and hit his Gardevoir EX, and he just had to like keep attacking. And then eventually like both of us like drew out of it and like kind of set up our boards, but like I was like behind 1 prize the whole game, so I got to use counter catcher and I got to use reversal, so I was able to win that one. And game 3 was like really interesting. So he started Zacian, and I just started like Ralts or something. So turn 2, like he just went knockout with Zacian, and I got to Mirage Step. So out of 3 games between 2 Gardevoir decks, so 6 possible games, that was the first time either of us Mirage Stepped, which was crazy. So I got 3 Kirlias into play, but he got to take the initiative. So he got to be up 2 prizes on me, which I honestly didn't really hate, because he also had like Manaphy on his bench to protect from Screamtail, and then he had his own Screamtail. So he only had like 3 like Kirlia/Ralts in play. So I knew like I could win by just knocking out a Guardi EX and knocking out the Zacian. I just had to be careful like if he collapses or he plays Turo on one of them. So I remember like I wanted him to evolve one of his Kirlias to an Arcana, so that when I took out his Gardevoir EX, if he wanted to get another one, he'd have to like evolve his last Kirlia, and then I could take out his Arcana again, like kind of cripple his draw. So so on my first prize when he was at 4, I took out a Kirlia, and then he evolved to like Arcana Gardevoir, and like I think he benched a Ralts, and then after he took a knockout to go to 3, that's the turn where I'm like, okay, I'm knocking out your Gardevoir this turn. So I like did a big reversal play with Arcana, knocked out his Guardi EX. And then on his turn, he had the Lumineon, because he like he only had 1 draw. Like he only had Arcana, which was my goal. So that meant he only had like one bench space for a Ralts. This is kind of like what the board looked like. His is the one on the top left. Like the Luminion's after I knocked out his Gardevoir EX. So once he did that, he literally, I knew if I just like drew Cresselia every turn, like he could never get another Guardy EX. And once Luminion was in play, I'm like, hey, he literally just collapsed and Turo to take one of his 2 prizes off the board. So yeah, so when I was at 3, like he went down to like 2, so I just like super out of my crest, knocked out his Ralts, and then I was like, from there I felt pretty good. My deck was super thin, like my board was even more set up than I have here. I had like Curlias as well. So I'm like, I just need to draw Counter Catcher or Boss to win the game on his Luminion organization. So yeah, like he tried to like slap when we were both at 2 to not trigger Counter Catcher. And time got called at this point, but like my deck was so thin, like I could draw my whole deck and I just had Boss left. So it was a crazy close match. Like we went to time, like 75 minutes. But yeah, luckily I was the winner. It felt bittersweet knocking Jeremy out since like we're good friends, like we were playing together, but it still felt good to go to top 4. So yeah, at this point, like all my friends were like watching and like they kind of had us isolated, like playing, like no one could really see. So like everyone was really hyped for me. I was like taking a moment to take it all in. Like my family was all going crazy back in Toronto, so felt really good. And then had to go back. They took me backstage and they just told me to wait there until it was my turn to play. So yeah, top 4. I was on stream. Also in the VOD review, so go watch that. It was my first Miraidon matchup, and I think the matchup's like slightly unfavored since Iron Hands puts a lot of pressure on my deck. So game 1, like I won the coin flip and I got to go first, and like I look at my opening hand and it was just like unplayable. It was like Ralts, Ultra Ball, Energy, Boss, like Counter Catcher, something like that. Like, and I had to sit there for like 10 minutes, like waiting for them to tell us to start on stream, just like looking at my hand. So to make things even worse, when I Ultra Ball turn 1, my plan was like grab a Ralts and just like hope I like top deck like Curlia or like a supporter. And I prize Mirage Step and a Refinement Curlia. So like there's like a funny clip of me like when I noticed, like just like putting my hands on my head. So I thought the game was just like lost in this spot, but my opponent prized Squawk, and then they actually had to like fleet-footed, and he ripped the Research, or else he would have just been dead in the water. So I actually grabbed Green Ninja off my Ultra Ball, and like I drew energy like Iono for next turn. So yeah, I Iono'd, like I got a couple of rolls down. I got like 1 Refinement Curlia down. So my board was still really weak. And when he took a knockout, like I actually had a really interesting play that I came up with that I was really proud that I found the line where I played my hand down to 0 and I got a Zacian knockout on his Raikou, and I knew I prized a Worker and a Refinement Curlia. So I knew I had a decent chance of hitting some way to draw off my prize. And I was just like, okay, like if I don't do this, like I might get Iron Hands next turn. Like I'm just going to like lose so much initiative and pressure in the matchup. So like I went for it, took out his Raikou. He hit like a generator, like double lightning on his like Iron Hands to like knock out my Zacian. Otherwise, I think I would have been really far ahead. But I was able to like luckily like Worker and hit my second reversal, which was pretty lucky, I'm not going to lie, to take out his Iron Hands. And then from there, like he couldn't KO my Gardevoir EX because he had no energy in play to do Raichu. So I just like ripped a Counter Catcher, and then just like he had a Mew EX, which I knocked out with Gardevoir. So like it was an insane comeback. Like looking at my opening hand, like it's kind of crazy that I won. But if you look at my face in like the stream game, like I wasn't like going crazy. I was just like laser focused because I knew like, okay, it's not done yet. So like game 2, I had like another really bad open. I just like didn't set up that well. I prized another Curlia. And then there's one turn where he Iron Hands me, and I literally just needed to draw like Gardevoir EX so I could Arcana it. And I drew like 10 or 11 cards, and I whiffed Guardy EX, where I feel like if I hit it, I probably would have just like won the set. So that was really frustrating. Like once I whiffed that, like I tried to do some like Counter Catcher plays to come back, but I couldn't. And game 3, like again, I prized the Curlia. Common theme of the match. I like kind of struggled to stabilize and build a big board, but it was really close. Like it came down in the end to he was gonna need to like get a boss Raichu, and I kind of messed up because I had an opportunity to Iono, but my like gut just told me he didn't have boss for whatever reason, and I kind of tunneled a bit because if I drew Rare Candy Arcana, like I could take off energy on his board and just like win no matter what. So I researched, and, like I kind of whiffed, and I whiffed Counter Catcher to bring up his Fluffy with no energy, and he had like 3 or 4 cards in his hand, and after I took a knockout, he just had like Raichu boss. So it was really tough to get like knocked out at the end there. I remember I just like sat at the table for 2 or 3 minutes by myself, like when everyone left. But like after, like I know I got the trophy, like all my friends were there. I went to Fogo de Chao after. It was like I lifted my spirits up. But yeah, the tournament was like amazing. Definitely one of the highlights of my Pokemon career. I pretty much have my Worlds invite now, which is great. It was just like so nice, like all the love that I got from like not just my friends and family, but just like people I've never met, like people who love the channel. So that was really amazing to see. So just talking about some changes to Gardevoir going forward now. So the main cards I would even consider adding are literally just VIP Pass and Jirachi. So I think VIP Pass, like even after I've done well this tournament, like I don't think like no VIP Pass is like the right way to play Gardevoir. Like I think there's merit to both ways. And I think going forward, VIP Guardy might be better because I do anticipate the meta being more aggressive and fast now that Gardevoir did so well. So cards like Iron Hands, decks like Valiant. So you definitely need to be faster to keep up with them. And having VIP Pass allows you to have games where like you go 4 Waltz turn 1, turn 2, you go like Candy Guardy, Curlia. Even a Mirror, like you can go a little fast if you want to do that. And then the other card I was thinking about is like Jirachi, just because like I do think that Iron Valiant decks might go up a bit. Same with Rapid Strike. So having a way to block Yoga Loop, I think is pretty important. So I don't really know what I would cut to add Jirachi to my deck. I feel like I might have to cut a Fog Crystal, which feels kind of bad. But yeah, I'm definitely not cutting Crest. So those are probably two cards I would consider adding to Gardevoir going forward. I'm going to film like a Gardevoir guide for this format. So keep your eyes out for that. Well, I'll discuss like all of this more in depth. But yeah, obrigado for watching. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what videos you want for the Paradox Rift format. So just so you guys know what I have planned, I have some VOD reviews. I have a Guardy Mirror where I recorded with my friend Jeremy where he played against Natalie. I'm going to ask him to come and do a Gardevoir guide with me. We'll break down the deck even further. My good friend Daniil, who I do the Shift Gear podcast with, he got top 16 with the Turbo Iron Hands deck, so I'm going to have him come talk about that, maybe VOD review one of his games, and him and I are recording our episode of our podcast, so definitely check that out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and good luck with all your games out there.